All right, everybody, welcome back. I just want to first start off by saying that was a real treat for me this week to get to see some of you face to face in your secondary methods course. I know not everybody is taking secondary methods this semester or taking secondary methods from one of my good friends, Christina Santoya. But it was funny, Tuesday night, her and I were working on a research project together. And she just happened to offhandedly mention, hey, I think we may have some of the same students. And I said, oh, okay. So we pulled out our rosters and started comparing. And sure enough, she did have, about half of the students that I have in this class. And so she just joked and said, hey, you should come by on Wednesday and say hi to them at least face to face. So that was fun for me on Wednesday while I was on campus, just to pop in and say hi and finally get to see you face to face. I joked with her that I'm jealous that she gets to have that face to face class. Her and I both joke about how, well, first of all, her and I both bemoan the idea about online classes at times because her and I have a very constructivist style of teaching. And so face-to-face classes are something maybe we're a little bit more comfortable with in terms of our teaching style. And so, so it was just, again, it was a treat. It was fun to be able to just get to see some of you face-to-face. I hope I'll have a little bit more interaction with the rest of you, just maybe offhandedly as I'm on campus at times. In terms of that, though, I don't necessarily think that this class is not meeting our objectives or that we're limited in any way. I just want to commend you. I feel like our discussions are phenomenal. The purpose of this class is, again, to develop your philosophy and expose you to other research and other models and have you really synthesize all those models together and develop a philosophy of what you think is the best way to manage a classroom. As I read everybody's discussions, I get on usually every day, starting from Monday, so Monday all the way through Friday for about an hour and a half, and just read through the discussions that have been posted. And I'm seeing some great thoughts, and I'm seeing you develop your philosophies. I'm seeing you start to say, hey, I really like this theory, I don't like this theory, and you're really grounding yourself and even meshing some of these theories together to ground yourself into a philosophy. So I have no qualms. I think we're doing great. I hope this course is really helping you in terms of your learning and helping you understand how to manage your classroom. Again, just kudos to you. I commend you for your work and for your effort. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. If there are any concerns, you feel like there are aspects of your learning that you feel need to be addressed or that this class may not be addressing in terms of maybe some gaps that you're identifying for yourself as you're being reflective, then let me know, and I will do my best to accommodate for that. So one other thing I want to point out for this week, we kind of had a little bit of hiccups in terms of online setting, ironically, coincidentally, more is what I meant to say. So in terms of, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Going back to, so one thing that happened this week in terms of communication, on Web Campus, there's a little email link, and I was under the impression that if you email that, or if you use that to email me, that the email went directly to me on my UNLV account. I found out this week that that was not the case. I just had a hunch to go check that email link and saw that there was a couple emails in there, and those were emails I had never seen before. Luckily, I caught them for this week, and they weren't like prior weeks. And so in terms of that delay in response and delay in communication, I apologize. That was not intended. So as a correction in the future, if you do need to address me on anything, please just email me directly. My email address is in the syllabus, and I check that email three, four times a day. So I should definitely be able to get back to you within a 24-hour period. So please, if there are issues, address me there. The second thing I want to address, and I'm just feeling a little guilty about, but I want to clarify, my job is obviously to teach, and my job is to give all of you feedback about the way you're thinking, about the assignments, to ensure that the feedback that I give you is helping you learn, and just being an active discussant in the discussion hopefully is helping you learn as well. So if I send you some feedback personally to and which I do, what I do is if I see something in your post that I'm worried about or I'm concerned about in terms of making sure that you get the assignment done in the way that I want you to do it so that you get the grade that you want or whatever, let's throw out grades, that you're learning. That's the most important thing, right? So if I see concerns in the post and I happen to email you, and what I do is I email you personally. I don't go back to my philosophy, praise in public, give criticism or any of those kinds of things in private. So I send you a direct email. If that is ever the case, please understand that my tone is not meant to be harsh or like I'm just this jerk teacher that's just like, oh, you're horrible. That is not the case. I hope the feedback is productive. I hope that when I address a concern that is meant to kind of help you address some of the learning concerns that I'm seeing. So I hope that that's beneficial. It's always a tough thing to receive critical feedback, and it's definitely a tough thing for a teacher to give critical feedback and do it in a way that the learner responds positively. So I really hope that I'm doing that. I hope I'm modeling that. I'm hoping that you're receiving it in that way. And if there are issues, please address it with me. So in terms of that assignment, what I saw this week was some of you were posting about your classroom observations and your practicums. While, albeit that's part of the assignment, I mean, really is to observe a teacher and to really critically analyze how these theories are playing or taking a role in the teaching that you're observing. While you did that assignment, and I have no qualms there, that was fantastic. What I really wanted this week was to have a whole group discussion, a whole class discussion on one common theme. And so that's why I used that video. I chose that video because it was rich. I chose that video because there was a lot that could be discussed, a lot that could be criticized, and there were definitely some theoretical models at play there that I wanted you to identify and then grapple with. And so if you were discussing your classroom teacher or your mentor or things that you were seeing, it's kind of off base, and then it wasn't helping us stay on a similar ground so that the discussion could be very fruitful. So in the future, if that assignment is unclear or any assignment is unclear, or you're noticing, hey, I don't know if my post is like other people's posts, just address me. Again, send me an email if I haven't addressed you. Really, if I haven't addressed you, there shouldn't be a problem, but usually I'm pretty good at catching some of those things. So I'm just feeling a little guilty. I don't want anybody to feel that I'm being too harsh or being too critical, because that's not my intention. My intention is just to make sure that we're all on the same page. We're all not necessarily all on the same page. In certain aspects, we're all on the same page, but that we're all achieving the things, and that each activity is designed for a purpose, and that purpose is to help enrich your learning, enrich your learning. So with that being said, hopefully I've cleared the air there, and there aren't any issues. Maybe there weren't any. Again, the limits of an online setting is I wouldn't know. I can't read your faces. I can't read your body language or any of those things as good teachers do. I can only read your post. So I hope that that is helpful. So without me blabbing on too much, let's get to this week. So this week you're going to look at self-regulating approaches. The difference is that in the prior week's approaches, it has a lot to do with what we as teachers do to affect student behavior, and what we as teachers do to make sure classrooms are running smoothly. This week we're going to take kind of a slight subtle shift from, there's still things that we as teachers do, but the focus is more on the student. What can we do as teachers to teach the student to manage their own behavior, to regulate their own behavior, to make sure the class is running smoothly, those kind of things. So it's a slight shift. It's kind of a cool way of thinking about it, because in actuality, our students, while they have us for 9 months, are never going to have us for the rest of their lives. So I think it's an important concept to consider that, we can't always they can't always rely on us to teach them how to behave and use these different strategies. So it's a kind of an interesting shift to start helping students develop within themselves a conscience or a reflective attitude is a better way to put it, about how they behave and how their behavior affects others. And so I think it's just a neat approach. So I'm not advocating it. That's not a plug by any means for anything. So just keep that in mind. This model is an interesting one. So you're going to be exposed to two different theorists. One is Barbara Coloroso, and then Marshall, and I'm going to make sure I get his name right. I think it's Marvin Marshall. Let me go forward just a little bit. Yes, Marvin Marshall. I did get it right. So what I want to do this week is a little bit different than in weeks prior. In weeks prior, you've been developing your philosophy. And to be honest, you're great at doing that. You're great at really examining the chapters and being very critical, looking at, how does this theory fit into my thinking? How does this theory going to work in a classroom? How does this theory connect to other theories? I know you're going to do that. You've already demonstrated that you've done that in your posts. And so this week, I feel like I just want to take a little bit of a pause and just have a little fun being applicable. And I think you're going to like, or at least I hope you're going to like this discussion this week. So there's two aspects that I want you to be discussing. Starting first with Coloroso, Barbara, she introduces this idea of natural consequences. So my first discussion question, I want you to think about a behavior that you could institute, not a punishment, that was kind of what Skinner would have done, is is more of that operant conditioning or giving students, and he wasn't into punishments per se, but just this idea of something external that's making the student behave versus what can we do as a natural consequence is what kind of Colarosa argues for, that doesn't punish a student but teaches a student through that experience. And so, for example, my uncle right now, he's a really big advocate of natural consequences. So his son's got in trouble. Instead of using I'm going to ground you or I'm going to do this or do this or do this, and those types of punishments were supposedly quote unquote to change behavior, he was all about the natural consequence. So if you stole something, then okay, here's the natural consequence. You may have to return it. You may have to pay for it. You're going to maybe have to face, heaven forbid, going to jail. And he had a situation where his son, got caught by the police one time doing something stupid, and he let him sit in jail for a little while. And Colarosa was about that, about letting students go through those consequences, those natural consequences to be a teacher. So I want you to think about that in the classroom. What are some things that you can do to let students kind of have a natural consequence and experience the consequences of their choices? And that's a powerful way to really teach students to regulate their behavior and get them to be reflective about their behavior. Now, Marshall, on the other hand, he's got this really cool idea about hierarchy. And it may sound a little elementary at first, but I think it can work phenomenally in a secondary classroom. And so he talks about showing students like a hierarchy of behaviors from level, starts with A, and it's a little backwards because you think A would be good behavior, but A is kind of the worst behavior, and then D would be the better behavior. And teaching students this hierarchy of, are your choices getting to here? Are your choices falling here? How is it that you can get to here? And really teaching students about this hierarchy of appropriate behavior, or the spectrum. He uses the word hierarchy, but it's really kind of a spectrum from this is bad behavior, this is good behavior, where are you at, and where do you want to be? And again, they're cool ideas. So how would you use that idea in your classroom? So as you can see, this week is really just kind of have a discussion about applicability, right? Discuss with each other, be critical of each other, come up with ideas. So in the first discussion, I'll make it very, very explicit. So think of a behavior, think of a natural consequence. And the second question is, think of this hierarchy, how could you apply it to your classroom? So have fun with it. I'm excited to see what you come up with. So enjoy your week. I'm looking forward to your discussions. As always, if there are questions, comments, or concerns, email me directly, and I will see you in the online setting, and then I will see you next week. Thanks.